Everyone, welcome to the Clearfield Community Services District Board of Directors meeting. It is February the 16th at 6:30 p.m. and it looks like we were pretty well attended this evening. We're going to start first by opening the board meeting and have open time, or are we going to go straight to closed session?
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance, sorry, thanks. Let's do Pledge of Allegiance right now, and who would like to lead us? Rachel, would you like to lead us? All right, I'll do it. On three.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good, all right.
We need to practice that.
Next item on the agenda is open time, and this evening, if you are interested in talking about things that aren't on the agenda, this is your time. Please come to the podium, announce your name. We're trying to keep track of, for recording purposes, who's talking and where they're directing their comments. So is there someone, folks?
Scott McVeigh has to speak.
Very good. Mr. McVeigh, floor is yours.
Good evening, board members. I'll direct this real quickly towards Mr. Fuss. Having read through some of the minutes from back in 2017, sir, I read that as the EAGSA was being formed, there was a discussion as to whether to go to an MOU or a JPA, and I'm assuming you chose the MOU. And where is it that we can find? Is it the main massive document, or is there a short version of the MOU that the community can read so we have a better understanding?
We have the MOU here at the office.
Okay, then I'll be able to get it.
Yeah, I think we do, don't we, Bill?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we have the MOU.
thank you, sir. Next item, since I've only got 3 minutes. I believe, Mr. Fuss, you're also on the LAFCO board.
Yes.
What is the benefit that we get for the $4,925 annual dues that we're paying?
Well, first of all,
Briefly, please, because I'm on 3 minutes.
No.
sure. First of all, the benefit that we get, I'll set aside for a moment. We are a special district and we fall under the auspices of LAFCO. We have to pay a fee to LAFCO, whether we are on it or not. Now, benefit-wise, special districts, prior to 1995, I think, special districts were not represented on LAFCO at all. Didn't have a seat on LAFCO. In 1995, special districts, including this one, I was not here, I was a supervisor at the time, petitioned to have a seat on LAFCO, 2 seats on LAFCO. And it was up to the LAFCO board at that time to make the decision, and they made the decision to allow special districts to be part of
I
LAFCO.
appreciate that, and only for time constraints, I ask you to leave it at that, because I'm restricted on time. Probably Operations Manager, Paul Mesa. I noticed on some of the payouts that we had 2 payments to the WIN Act, January 29th at $5,462, and then in that was December 29th, my apologies, and then on January 26th, a payment of $45,000. Are we on some sort of a monthly schedule to pay down that balance of $600,000 plus?
The first payment you mentioned, the smaller amount, was we took a credit that we had with the Bureau of Reclamation, and they were able to apply that to our WIN Act obligation. And then we followed that up with that smaller payment to meet the first year's payment of $200,000. And then we're waiting to hear back from the Bureau right now on what we have remaining from other credits that they found all the way back 10 or 15 years. And so instead of just waiting around, we went ahead and threw $45,000 at them.
Excellent, thank you for that answer. And one more directed towards you. I noticed in the payments that our chlorine is now, you showed an invoice for 2 totes for a little over $7,000. Curiosity so the public understands, 1 tote, about how many gallons of water does that treat for the district coming out of the wells?
Are we talking liquid chlorine or chlorine gas?
Here, the totes, I'm assuming you're talking the liquid that came in the totes? Those poly totes, 275 gallon ones?
Those doesn't have chlorine in them,
Oh, they don't.
no. Those are,
It's a chemical. It didn't identify what the chemical
oh,
was.
okay.
So I was curious.
Um,
Can you give us an
it
approximate?
just depends on,
cost?
so those chemicals are for removing, turbidity and particles in the water, and it just depends on what time of year. One of those totes could treat,
Putting you on the spot, I'm sorry.
one of those totes could treat 20 million gallons. Gosh, yeah, that's a tough one. I wanna say 20 million gallons, probably in the summer and certainly less in the winter.
Right, okay, thank you.
Maybe 200 million gallons. That's a tough one, Scott.
Very good. All right, now I'm gonna close our, public portion of this meeting to be reopened later, and the board is gonna convene in closed session. The board will adjourn to closed session to discuss the following items. Government Code S 5495 6.9 D3, pending litigation. We're gonna discuss Government Code S 5495 7.6, employee/labor negotiations, identify a representative for negotiations before adjourning to closed session.
Yeah.
Okay. Adjourn from closed session, report any action taken. So before we move to closed session, we need to identify a representative
Or two?
or representatives. And why are we, since we have legal here, why are we limited in terms of the numbers of, I guess we have to be under 2 or under to be in negotiations?
Well, you don't wanna have a meeting,
Yeah.
and it's not standing committee, so you're just designating a representative district to negotiate with the.
But are negotiations gonna be a public meeting or are they gonna be closed? So there'll be a closed session?
Well, they'll probably have meetings with the representatives of the employees, but there won't be meetings of the board or of a standing committee.
Okay, very good.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, for our legal counsel. If this board were to appoint say, the standing committee, personnel committee, to be the negotiating committee, then whatever meetings the standing committee would have to be Brown Act meeting?
If you had a meeting of the personnel committee where a matter was discussed or decisions were made, then that's subject to the Brown Act.
Okay. What about if the board decided to appoint 2 other people as a ad hoc committee? Would that then have to be a Brown Act
Ad
meeting?
hoc committees don't have to be.
Doesn't have to be a Brown Act.
Thanks for that clarification. With, any more discussion?
Yes, are these people actually negotiating or they're just getting information? Because,
Well, I mean, the
that
negotiation,
would make them an executive committee, which is
well,
not
so
allowed under Brown Act, right?
they would be negotiating, but they couldn't make any final decisions.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah,
So
they're,
they're representative, they got
yes,
us.
they're representative,
This
but
is
they're
their
not
offer,
actually
bring
negotiating.
it back, yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Can I make a suggestion, or I can make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Would you like to do a motion?
I would like to move that we appoint an ad hoc committee, consisting of Director Chuck Jones and Director Cedric White to be the negotiating committee for the Clear Creek Community Services District.
Discussion?
We need a second.
Well, generally, you ask them whether they're willing to do it before you appoint them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, no, there's language.
Yep. I think we have noted that language on recording, and the motion is to, on first blush, I I'm in support of that. I'm not sure what the appetite is for other board members to serve on the committee, but I'd be interested in hearing that before I voted on this. I don't know if that's appropriate, but I think that, I'm interested.
Well, I think the personnel committee, since they were appointed, they should be the ones.
Yeah.
Well, again, I want to state, if the personnel committee is appointed to be the negotiating committee, then it's subject to the Brown Act. And it means that every time the negotiating committee meets with the employees, they have to come into its open session. And public is invited to come in, and then they go into closed session to do negotiations. They come out of closed session, there's probably not much to report out, because what the negotiating committee would have to do is then come to the board at a regular meeting of the board and go into closed session to discuss what they discussed in closed session with the employees.
Yeah.
I don't think labor negotiations are subject to the open meeting law.
Well, our council just told us that if you appoint the personnel committee, which is a standing committee, it's subject to the open meeting law. Is that what you said?
No, I meant that if there were meetings of the personnel committee, those are subject to the Brown Act. But if you appoint members of the board to negotiate on behalf of the district, then we don't need to worry about the Brown Act.
Oh, okay, well then, okay. I just wanted to simplify the process, because it could go on and get very cumbersome.
I move towards the ad hoc committee.
Is that what you'd like? Yeah, that's your comment? Okay. I would second Erwin Fuss's motion for myself, Cedric White, and Doug Jones to negotiate on behalf of the district.
Okay, I'm not sure what the point of having the personnel committee is if they don't handle personnel issues, so.
Okay. Do you want to modify the motion?
Well, no, like I said, it's, discussion is whether it's an ad hoc committee, whether it belongs in the personnel committee.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Agreed. Okay, so with the clarification that the standing committee person, the persons assigned to the personnel committee can serve to negotiate on behalf of the district.
They could, yes.
They
Okay,
could.
according to our council.
Can we have two motions in play?
Well, why don't I just change my motion?
No,
I'll just change my motion, and I'll just say that my motion now is to appoint the two members of the personnel committee to be the negotiating committee for the board.
I don't even know if you need to say committee, just to
What?
negotiate for
What's that?
the district. You can just designate them as representatives to negotiate.
Dave Salvandano and
Let's not say-
Doug Jones
Yeah.
will serve as the board's
I'm not on personnel.
Aren't you?
Erwin.
I am.
Okay, well, I would modify that motion and say that that Cedric White and Doug Jones should serve on the person.
That was my
It's
first
Chuck.
motion.
I'm sorry, I knew
That
what
was my
Doug
first
Jones was.
motion, and that's what I suggested.
So it sticks in my head.
That's what I suggested.
I concur. I would move.
We're agreed.
Well, you have a,
I second.
gotta get a second.
Okay,
Or,
Well, yeah, I made the motion, you seconded it, now we can vote on it.
Okay,
Public comment?
let's walk straight through.
No, not anymore.
Let's walk straight through the language, one more time.
okay.
Mr.
Yes,
Fox, would
please.
you like to?
Okay, my motion was to appoint, for this board, to appoint, Chuck Jones and Cedric White to be the negotiating committee
Nope, to
for
represent the district.
the, what?
No committee, just to represent the district.
Okay,
Yeah.
Chuck Jones and Cedric White to represent the district in negotiations with the employees.
I second.
Let's have a vote.
I'll call the question, Dave Salvandano.
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Director Turner?
Aye.
And Mr. Foster says aye. And I, as chairman, also agree. Vote aye.
Okay. Now we can go into closed session.
Very good. Let's
So
adjourn.
there's no opportunity to ask about this item now, or we have to wait till later?
There's no public comment?
Do you want to,
Well, we'll come back.
we're going to come back and discuss that, but I'm not sure whether the public comes into the discussion as to what the druthers of the board are for representatives.
You don't know what the question is.
Okay, procedure. Procedure, please, Rachel.
The motion has been made and carried, public comment
It's closed.
period is closed.
When was the public comment, because I never heard a person asking for public comment.
I asked for it.
I'm not sure why it's open yet.
Is
Two hands
there,
were up during that
is
period,
there,
too.
is there a possibility to have public comment on that after?
Certainly.
Sure.
Beverly first.
Come out of our conversation.
Beverly Fickus, good evening. My only comment is that in reading the old MOU, it was chock full of all kinds of problems. And to be transparent and open, we just want to make sure that we're able to view that and offer maybe suggestions. We're not asking to take over anything, we're not asking to do any of that. We just want to have an opportunity before it just gets rubber stamped to look it over and say, hey, maybe here's a problem that we foresee. If you're gonna be doing the negotiations in closed session, we may not ever get that opportunity. So I just ask that you give us, the public, the opportunity to review it before it gets passed. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
That was good enough.
That was it? Okay.
That's good enough.
Yeah, and so, and we, since we do have our council here, we could bring draft language to the personnel committee,
Yeah, and I mean, it would have to be eventually adopted by the board, so it's.
but in terms of that dialogue with the public and making sure they're heard in their entirety and get a chance for that. Okay, so with that, I'm even more comfortable with the way we're going with this.
And if I may, we will certainly address any of the issues that the community has.
Well, you'll be engaged on the personnel
So
committee.
we are aware
With the
of
draft.
exactly what your request is.
Okay.
And we will respond to that appropriately.
Thank you.
All right. Any other public comment?
Just real quick, can you give us an approximation on how long you'll be in closed session as we pretty much comes?
I have no
I
idea.
guess,
We've got it at the top of the agenda,
I
so
understand.
we start when we're fresh, and we're gonna walk through and we're gonna get back as quickly as we can.
Okay.
Which I appreciate.
So where's the barbecue?
Are we leaving here?
We're doing it at the front end to make sure we can release our council back to.
Yeah, we're paying this lady.
Are you leaving and going elsewhere, or we have?
And that's
to
on
leave?
the board.
We'll go on the back.
Thank you.
One of them's
Easy. More comfortable.
All right. Public parties.